The alarms on my bridge had not stopped screaming for 6 minutes, and I still did not understand why. My name is Ves Gorandu, and I served as communications officer aboard the Korathi vessel Highreach, part of what our command called the Fourth Fleet. 3 days ago, we were the pride of the Assembly, sent to correct a border dispute with a species we had barely bothered to study. They called themselves humans. We called them a footnote. Now every screen on my console was blank, and the silence coming from the rest of our fleet was louder than any explosion. Let me take you back to where it began, because you need to understand how fast everything changed. Our commander, a stern officer named Threll Doss, had laughed when the strike order arrived. The humans occupied a small cluster of worlds near a yellow star, nothing more than a handful of colonies, and a defense network our scans rated as primitive. We were told this would be a short campaign, a demonstration of strength, to remind the wider galaxy who held authority in this sector. I remember the moment we crossed into their system. Our long-range sensors painted a picture of scattered ships, old stations, and a colony called Meridian Point that had no visible shielding at all. Commander Doss ordered a show of force near their outer settlements, enough to make them surrender without a real fight. We did not expect them to go quiet. For 9 days after our first approach, every human channel fell silent. No distress calls, no diplomatic pleas, nothing. Our analysts assumed the species had panicked and scattered, perhaps abandoned their colonies entirely. Commander Doss began drafting terms of surrender to present, once we found their leadership. On the 10th day, a single transmission reached us. It came through on a frequency we had not shared with anyone, translated perfectly into our own language, spoken by a calm female voice that gave no name. She said only this: "You had every chance to leave." Nobody on the bridge understood the weight of those words. I certainly did not. I remember thinking it sounded almost polite, like a warning from a species too weak to back it up. I was wrong, and I found out exactly how wrong within the hour. A single human vessel appeared at the edge of our formation, small compared to our warships, moving with a precision that made our navigation officer mutter something under his breath. It did not fire a single visible weapon. Instead, our systems reported a massive data transmission flooding every channel we operated, military and civilian alike. Commander Doss ordered it blocked. It was too late. Within minutes, our automated defense grids across the outer colonies stopped responding to command. Not destroyed. Simply unresponsive, as if something inside them had gone to sleep and refused to wake. I remember Threll Doss standing at the center of the bridge, demanding answers from engineering, from tactical, from anyone who could explain how a fleet of 600 ships could be silenced by one small vessel that never fired a shot. Nobody had an answer. I did not have one either. Then came the ships. Not 600, not even 60. 12 human vessels entered the system, moving with a coordination that suggested they had rehearsed this exact scenario more times than I wanted to imagine. They did not attack our warships directly. They moved instead toward our communication relays, and one by one, our long-range channels began to fail. I sat at my station, watching the fleet map lose contact with ship after ship. The Highreach could still see nearby vessels, but anything beyond a certain distance vanished from our display, swallowed into static. Commander Doss ordered me to re-establish contact with Fleet Command. I tried for 11 minutes straight. Nothing. It was during that 11th minute that the second transmission arrived, and this one changed everything. The same calm voice returned, but this time, it spoke to every ship in our fleet at once, using a channel none of our engineers could trace or block. She introduced herself simply as Captain Ellen Marrow, commanding officer of a vessel called the Solace. She did not sound angry. She did not sound triumphant. She sounded almost tired, the way someone sounds after finishing a task they never wanted to begin. She told us that Meridian Point, the colony we had threatened during our first approach, was home to fewer than 4,000 people. She told us that when we scanned their defenses and found them primitive, we had missed the deeper truth. The colony had no visible shielding because it had never needed one. Every ship the humans built since their first contact with the wider galaxy, decades earlier, had been designed around one guiding principle: never let an enemy see your true strength until it no longer matters that they have seen it. Captain Marrow explained, in that same steady voice, that humanity had spent generations preparing quietly for exactly this moment. Not because they wanted conflict, but because they had learned, through their own long history, that peace only holds when it is backed by strength nobody wants to test. She said the technology flooding our communication network was not a weapon designed to destroy us. It was designed to isolate us, ship from ship, fleet from command, so that no single vessel could receive an order to escalate further. I remember Commander Doss demanding to know what she intended to do with us, now that we were cut off and effectively disarmed of coordination. Her answer surprised everyone on the bridge. "Nothing," she said. "We intend to do nothing further." She explained that every ship in our fleet retained full control of its own systems. We could still fly, still navigate, still communicate with any vessel close enough for direct contact. What we could not do, for a period she did not specify, was reach fleet command, coordinate a renewed strike, or call for reinforcement from beyond the system. She called it a pause rather than a punishment. Then she said something that stayed with me long after that day. "We do not want your worlds. We do not want your surrender. We want you to go home and tell your assembly exactly what almost happened here, so that no one ever has to find out what happens next." The transmission ended, and for a long moment, nobody on the bridge spoke. Commander Doss ordered a full diagnostic of our systems, searching for any trace of sabotage, any hidden weapon buried in our own network. Our engineers found nothing beyond the communication interference itself. Every weapon system remained functional. Every engine still answered command. We were not crippled. We were simply alone, each ship an island, in a fleet that used to move as one. I spent the following hours trying every frequency I knew, hoping to reach even a single other Korathi vessel beyond visual range. Each attempt dissolved into the same soft static, patient and unbroken, like a door that had been quietly and firmly closed, rather than sealed shut with force. It was near the end of that first day that Commander Doss called me to his station and asked a question I did not expect. He asked whether I believed the humans could have destroyed us outright if they had chosen to. I told him the truth. 12 ships had done more damage to our coordination in under an hour than any battle in assembly history, without firing a single visible weapon at a single hull. If that was restraint, I did not want to imagine what they considered their full strength. He was quiet for a long time after that. 3 days later, as our fleet slowly regrouped ship by ship within visual range, working our way back toward assembly space one relay at a time, I finally understood the deeper lesson buried in Captain Marrow's words. This had never been about the size of their fleet or the strength of their weapons. It had been about patience, about a species willing to wait decades in quiet preparation for a threat they hoped would never arrive, and about the discipline to use only as much force as was needed to end a conflict before it truly began. We returned to assembly space carrying no captured territory, no surrendered colony, no victory to report. We carried only a warning, delivered exactly as intended, and a growing unease that spread through every officer who had witnessed those 3 days firsthand. I still do not know if the assembly will heed that warning. Reports since our return suggest long-range communication near the human border remains unreliable, as though something out there continues listening, patient and watchful, ready to close the same quiet door again, should anyone try to open it. I write this account not as a soldier proud of victory, nor as one recording defeat, but as someone who witnessed a species reveal, in the space of a single day, exactly how much power they had chosen never to use before that moment. We went to correct what we believed was a weak and scattered people. We came home having learned that the loudest warning is sometimes delivered without a single shot fired, and that the silence which followed said more than any battle report ever could. Somewhere near that yellow star, humanity is still listening. I hope none of us ever give them reason to speak again,